Uh, so it, with no further ado, it is indeed my pleasure to welcome this evening Sunny Day, who represents, I'm going to say, the great state of Oklahoma, because you would say that about your state, as Miss Oklahoma. She is just amazing. Her story is amazing, and I'm just so glad that she was available. I'm so appreciative. Her time is, she actually currently still teaches school every day. And so I know she has a very busy schedule. So I'm most appreciative that she took the time to work us into this schedule. But I was telling her at the beginning on June 16th, and I'll just kind of hold this paper up, the More paper, which is like 3 pages. My husband brought it in from the library, and I'm just breezing through it. And here is Norman High grad makes most of second chance. And it's Sunny Day, who has just won Miss Oklahoma. Well, for those of you that don't know, Moore and Norman are just butt up to each other. And so I actually live right on the Moore-Norman line. And Sunny and I learned before that we both live in Moore now. So, but anyway, I just took that and cut it out. I knew I was retiring, and I thought, I might need her for something. This story is just so good. So I just put it in my planner. And then Melissa and I started talking about chapter chats. And I said, wow, I have someone that I think would be so inspirational for students to hear her story. So just a little bit about Sunny. She is a first-generation high school and college graduate, Norman High School and the University of Oklahoma. She currently teaches at Western Heights Public Schools. And I'll let her tell. She's very involved in volunteerism, in which Phi-U is very much about that, and service projects and things like that. She created, and that's kind of the key topic we've asked her to speak about, other than I do want her to tell her story, on character development and school programs. It's called Ready, Set, Go. Building skills today for tomorrow's success. So again, we are so fortunate to have her with us this evening. And Sunny, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you once again.
Well, all of those were very nice things. So thank you for being so sweet and having a great introduction. So like she said, my name is Sunny Day, and I won Miss Oklahoma 2023 on June 10th. So it still feels fresh, but it is going by really, really fast. But I am a first generation high school and college graduate. So for me, education is one of the utmost important things in my life. It completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my story here in a minute. But I decided to have that same power of education by becoming an educator. And that's not something that I knew I wanted to do until after I graduated. So I'll get to tell you guys about that story. But thank you guys so much for being here. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you guys a presentation. And then at the end is my website that I just recently built about Ready, Set, Go. So let's get this screen. Oh, can you give me access to that?
I thought no, I did that the wrong way. I'm so sorry. And I meant to do that a while ago. I'm going to do that right now.
Wonderful.
Okay, let's see. I just hit share screen, don't I? Share screen, isn't that what I do? Okay.
I feel like you may click.
You should have a little arrow next to it to click it, and then it will open up another drop menu that says let others share.
Multiple participant. I'm so sorry.
There you go.
Yes, I hit the wrong one. I think thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, do you have it? Access to it? I did that.
Let's check it out. I sure do. Yes, ma'am. All right, let me get it.
I just love technology.
Okay, you guys tell me, is it working?
Mm-mm.
No. This was me when COVID happened during teaching year. That was a lot of fun getting to learn that.
Okay, I've checked multiple participants can share simultaneously.
Okay, let's see. I
Or
think I've got
one
it.
person, should I check one participant? There, I think we
It's
maybe
going now.
did.
Is it working?
I think we did it. Yes, yes,
Yay, we
we
got
got
it.
it.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. All right, well, let me click present and then we are ready to go, friends. Okay, so this is me. My name is Sunny Day. I like to say that I am an educator, a speaker, and an advocate. There are three things that I completely value in life and three roles that I really do implement on a daily basis. And my message to everyone at the schools that I visit, when I go speak to churches, as Miss Oklahoma and as Sunny Day, is you are the author of your own narrative. And this is something that I've discovered on my own as someone who did kind of write my own chapter and my own story. So I think it's important to talk about who I was before I became Miss Oklahoma, because to me, that really is why I am who I am and where I am today. So I was born in Chickasha, Oklahoma. And when I was about 1 year old, my family moved me to Norman, Oklahoma. My favorite thing about myself is that I'm a big sister. So I'm the oldest of five. I have two younger brothers and two little sisters. And like I mentioned, I'm a first generation high school and college graduate. So my parents had me when they were fairly young. So they did not make it past the 10th grade. And neither of my parents' parents had finished high school as well. So education for me was something I knew I needed to be good at, and I knew I wanted to be a role model for my siblings to get through school, because I wanted to know that or wanted to make sure that people in my family knew that we were more than where we came from. So the first 9 years of my life they were great. They were sunshine and rainbows, what you would imagine of a typical family. We had a beautiful house that my parents built together. But my family on my dad's side did have a very dark history of substance abuse. And when I was about 9, my dad did end up developing an addiction to meth, which quickly moved him to a completely different lifestyle. He left our home very quickly and started living life on the streets. He was no longer working, he did not have a house. And so I was not only struggling with the fact that my dad was completely unsafe every single day, and that as a child caused a lot of trauma and a lot of emotions, whether it was anger or confusion or fear of losing my dad. But at the same time, when he left, we lost everything. My siblings, my mom, and I had to move into Section 8 housing. We moved into a one-bedroom apartment, and my mom had to immediately go to working 2, 3 jobs. So at that age, when I'm supposed to be going to birthday parties and supposed to be reading books and having fun and going to the park, I had to grow up really fast. And it wasn't something that my mom ever really made me do or asked me to do, but I saw my mom give up meals so my siblings and I could eat. I witnessed her completely depressed because my dad had left, and she was struggling on her own. She was pregnant at the time. And so I decided to kind of step up to the plate. So I started helping my mom take care of and raise my brothers and sisters, helping with schoolwork, helping pack lunches, cooking dinner. And when I was about 14 years old, I started working at Brahms, and then I went to go work at a car dealership, and I worked there all throughout high school and college. But because of me, both of my siblings, the two older ones underneath me, they started working very young too. So both of them started working at 14 years old at Brahms as well. And so we've all been very hard workers because we saw my mom do the same thing, and she did instill that diligence and that hard work ethic into us. But I had eyes looking up at me every single day. So I knew that whether I wanted to be or not, or was ready to be, I was a role model. And that really pushed me to want to be a role model to other people. So when you have two parents who don't go to college, it's really hard to go to a university. When I went to OU for the first week, I was so overwhelmed. I was really nervous, and part of me didn't feel like I belonged there. But I earned my way, and I had to keep reminding myself that deserve to be there because I applied for so many different scholarships. I put in the effort for that. And I'm really grateful because Oklahoma offers a scholarship called Oklahoma's Promise that actually goes to kids who have to maintain a certain GPA. So they have to be good at their academics in high school, but it's for kids who grow up in a single parent household or live below the poverty line. So me and all of my siblings have qualified for that scholarship. So if it weren't for that, I definitely wouldn't have gotten the higher education that I did. And so that's something that I really try to tell my own students about is Oklahoma's Promise, because not a lot of schools give that information out there. So it's really important for kids to know. So when I went to OU, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I wanted to be. I just knew I was so grateful and so excited to be there. And so it was not until a week after I graduated with a bachelor's in communications that Oklahoma was having a teacher walkout at the time. And I remember taking my younger siblings to the Capitol with me so we could advocate for our educators and use our voices. And someone looked over to me and said, "Have you ever considered teaching?" I was like, "That's the craziest idea I've ever heard," because that sounds very overwhelming. But then I remembered I helped my mom with my siblings, and I did help them study in school. And I know the value of school. So I decided to look up how to obtain the emergency teaching certification. I passed all of my exams, I took them, and then I decided that I did not want to work for the schools that I went to. Because for me, I was an outcast, and Norman Public Schools is a phenomenal school district. But people like me didn't really feel like we belonged or we fit in. And so I knew I wanted to work with kids who came from backgrounds like me. So I did extensive research on the different school districts in the area and found Western Heights. It is a very tough district. We're constantly in news headlines. Our report card has been a D or an F for the past 10 years. But my students need love and they need consistency. And I know that I can be a mentor for them. So I said, I'm up for the challenge, because if anyone knows what it feels like to be one of those students, it's me. And so I've been very vulnerable in my classroom getting to share my story. And I do think that I've made an impact by just simply being me and being kind of a beacon of hope for my students. So my first year of teaching is whenever I decided that I wanted to do something bigger than what education offers. So now I'm going to go into a little bit of my platform, because my platform for Miss Oklahoma is much more than just something I had to create as a qualification to join the Miss America organization. So to talk about Miss Oklahoma, these are some of the awards that I've won. So Miss Oklahoma 2023, obviously I took away the title in June, which was really exciting. I won the Private Interview Award in 2023, the Evening Gown Award, and second place in community service. And then in 2021, the last time I competed, I was fourth runner-up. I won the Private and Onstage Interview, first place in community service, and a Spirit of Oklahoma Award. And all of that combined has given me a total of $70,000 to be able to go back to college. And so I'm really excited to be able to say, after my reign as Miss Oklahoma, I am going to go back to school and obtain my master's in administration so I can one day be a principal. But I will tell you all that my long-term goal is to become Oklahoma State Superintendent. I want to take my experience in the classroom and my own personal story and really advocate for students who need it and advocate for the educators, because I know where it's lacking, especially in my own school district. But my journey to becoming Miss Oklahoma is just as unique as my upbringing, because one, I'm not your typical Miss Oklahoma. People are always very surprised when I walk in the room, and a lot of people, especially when they hear where I come from, are even more surprised, which sounds like it would be almost offensive. However, I love that. I love being different, because now I can show other little girls that come from places like me or think that they're not able to do something because of where they come from, that they can be anything as long as they work hard. So I've competed in a total of 12 pageants. And I like to say I'm what everyone calls the biggest loser in pageant land, because I have lost more times than I have won. So I have lost a total of 11 pageants. And when I competed for Miss Oklahoma in 2021, it was actually my last year. And the reason for that is because at the time, the Miss America organization had an age limit of 25 years old. So I competed, I was 25 years old at the time, and that journey was done. that chapter of my life had closed. And so I went on living my life, teaching away, not thinking anymore about Miss Oklahoma because I thought that that door had closed. Well, I get an email in February that says the Miss America organization is raising their age limit for the first time in 100 years to 28 years old. And it was right before my 28th birthday. So I said, I have no money because I'm on teacher salary. I have no time to prepare, but you do not get 2-second last tries. So I decided to just kind of plan what I would do if I won Miss Oklahoma, because I was at 28 years old. I was at a very different stage in my life than I was at 25 years old. And so I have a full-time career. I'm tenured at my school. But this is something I've wanted to do for over a decade. So I feel like the universe and the stars are kind of aligning. I should take this. So I said, well, I can't really prepare. So what can I do? I said, well, the only thing I know how to do is to be myself and to be authentic. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to share my story. And the great thing is I've already lost so many times. I know how it feels and I know that I can handle it. So I prepared myself more to lose than I did to win, which is why my reaction, I think, was as funny as it was. So this also goes to say that, one, no matter how many times you get told no, or no matter how many setbacks or even how many times you lose, that there is always the opportunity and room to grow, and to try to get closer to that dream. But also, as someone who's made history as the oldest Miss Oklahoma ever and the oldest woman who will ever go to Miss America, I'm really proud to be able to say that, because I think in today's society, a lot of people put an expiration date on success and leadership and education even. I'm 28 years old and I'm going to go back to school because I'm excited and I've earned the scholarship to do so. And I'm 28 years old and I miss Oklahoma. And that may seem taboo, but I think because of my life experience, it's made me more prepared for the job as well as my professional experience. So to be Miss Oklahoma or to be any title holder, you have to have something called a platform. Well, the wonderful thing about a platform is the 3 questions that you would need to ask yourself is, what is something you would change about the world? How can you make an impact in your school or your community? And what are you passionate about? Well, as someone who grew up taking care of kids and as someone who takes care of and educates kids every single day, I'm passionate about kids. And I thought about creating all these millions of different things. And then I thought about what I was doing in my own school. So after my first year of teaching, I really sat down and said, I'm going to be intentional with my students next year after learning the ropes. And my school does not have textbooks. We do not have curriculum. 95% of our teachers are emergency certified. So oftentimes I see a lot of our teachers Googling and printing off worksheets, which is the sad reality. And we're in a district where kids are on their 5th, 6th grade, but they're on a 2nd grade reading level. So the literacy isn't there as well. And I see kids every day unable to focus because they're hungry, because they're tired, because they stayed up all night hearing gunshots outside their window. And I realized, what would I have wanted as a kid? Because everyone was so focused on getting all of this content, these standards in so they can pass the Oklahoma State test, but we weren't necessarily taken care of. And so I said, in order for our kids to succeed academically, they must be taken care of and taught how to be people first. And so I started to put together a socially emotional curriculum for my school. I spent the summer after my first year teaching working on it. I presented it to my principal, and she said, well, we don't have anything else. And what have we got to lose? So it's something that we've been using for the past 5 years. Every 10 days, homerooms stay with their homeroom teacher for an extended period of time for 90 minutes, and they do a lesson, an activity, or a reading out of my curriculum that I've created, and it's made a huge impact. Our graduation rate has gone up, the kids' self-confidence has gone up, the amount of fighting has gone up, which has been really great. So I'm going to tell you guys about it. But obviously, my why was my childhood and my experience as an educator. We see schools going downhill. We see violence going on in our communities. We see offensive language being thrown around. All of these world problems that we have could be solved or could be at least fixed or decreased if we helped kids know how to communicate, if we helped kids become more confident, and we gave them the skills to be good people out in the world. And so I always tell my students, it's so important for me to build trust with you, that we are a family, because at the end of the day, I want to teach you how to be a good person before I want you to teach you how to be the best reader or the best writer. Because oftentimes at my school, with our graduation rate as low as it is, my kids aren't going to graduate high school, and I've accepted that, and they're not going to go to college. So why not give them this set of skills that's going to help them no matter where they come from and no matter where they're headed? So my mission with Ready, Set, Go, it's an innovative 3-pillared approach, and it educates the future generation. I also do professional developments for educators. I have made partnerships, so we have resources to give to families. And I always say, if we're building better families, we're building better communities. And then I get to speak with some legislators next month to hopefully get this in more school districts than just mine. So what does it teach? All of my stuff, all of my resources help teach empathy. They help teachers set classroom norms and behaviors, and they help foster community within the school system, within the classes, within one-on-one relationships between a teacher and a student. It helps them learn how to do positive goal setting, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness. It's very big on relationship skills and communication, responsible decision-making, patience, kindness, honesty, selflessness, humility, forgiveness, commitment. And one of my favorite presentations that I'm able to do is a drug and bullying prevention presentation. So the support that I've had, I've been able to partner with many different people within Oklahoma. So 988, the 988 hotline, the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, and the Norman Regional Foundation. They're really there to give resources to the schools and families, because I don't want this to just stop at the schools. I do want it to go into the households, because oftentimes if we teach these kids things, because they're coming from families who don't have these skills themselves, then they can go home and they can teach their siblings or their parents. And like I said, if we're building stronger and better families, then we're building stronger and better communities. And so this is really important for kids from underprivileged communities. To have these resources, especially within a school setting, because a lot of them lack that adult support and relationships. One of the big things that is talked about when it comes to social emotional learning, especially in the state of Oklahoma from politicians, is that this isn't a teacher's place to teach these things. It needs to be taught at home. And I completely respect and I completely agree with that. But the reality is that it's not. For me, I was that troubled kid. If I was not crying in the bathroom at school, then I was being very disrespectful to my teachers or acting out, or I wasn't being present, or I didn't have good attendance. And it's simply because I was dealing with a lot of stuff inside that I didn't know what it was or what to do with it. And it made it so hard to focus in school. And so I think it's important that we build these relationships and these conversations in the classroom, because if they don't have adult support at home, then it's important for at least one relationship. And so encouragement is my favorite pillar, because that's where I have my school presentation menu. So Miss Oklahoma typically offers a very generic one presentation to all schools, but I send out on my school tour a survey to the school that asks them what exactly it is that their students need, because every set of kids have different needs and a different message that they need to hear. And so I tailor each and every message, every presentation, and every school appearance to the specific needs of that school. And it's been really awesome. I have been able to travel 15,000 miles across the state of Oklahoma. I have visited with 10,000 students so far. The month of October was very busy with Anti-Bullying Week and with Red Ribbon Week. And I've got to see that just by me simply opening up and sharing my story, that I'm able to foster that safe space for good conversations with kids. I've had kindergartners tell me that their own parents have substance abuse issues. I've had kids tell me that they've had bad days and this is what I do. And so it's been really cool to be able to have these relationships and these conversations with these kids, because not only is it cool for me, but it creates that space that they feel so comfortable sharing that in front of their teachers and their peers as well. And so that's the whole goal, is to get comfortable having these hard conversations and to talk about our feelings. And then teach. Teach is where I literally give resources. I have created something called a mind guide, which is a 18-page socially emotional self-paced guidebook for a kid to work through. It does work for kindergarten through high school. I've also been able to partner with 988 to get different coloring sheets and different types of word searches and stuff in schools. And so every school that I've been able to visit has not only gained access to my website, but I have given every school a copy of the Mind Guide for free. And so I'm not hoping to gain anything out of this other than to get more kids to become self-aware and to become socially and emotionally stronger people, and to be compassionate, to be resilient, and to have those basic skills that all people need in today's hard world. So like I said, my impact, I've been able to travel so much and talk to all these kids, and I still have many schools that I'm excited to go to. Like I said, I'm going to one tomorrow, which is exciting. So I have visited a total of 32 Oklahoma school districts. And on top of just my tangible where I actually go, so those resources and my presentations, I also started a podcast the day after I won Miss Oklahoma. It's called the You Go Miss O podcast. And I've been able to bring school counselors on that podcast, educators, my directors to talk about my curriculum, sponsors, and to really just get to sit down and talk about the facts of social emotional learning and the importance of it. And then I just created a website. So now I'm going to show you guys my website, but here are some photos of my school tour. It's been such an incredible experience. I will tell you, when I first started, I was really intimidated by going to high school. I teach 5th and 6th grade, so going to meet and speak to 12th graders was super intimidating, but they have been some of my most responsive and some of my best communicators when I've been able to speak to them. And of course, going to see like kindergarten through 3rd grade has been really fun because they always ask me to sing a Disney song, and so we get to sing a song together. But I was very surprised by the amount of younger kids who are as aware of themselves and their emotions as they are. So we've had some really enlightening conversations as well. So my website, I just built it. So it is still in its works, but if you ever want resources or want to share this with someone, it is skillsbeyondtheclassroom.org. And so again, here are some of my amazing experiences as Miss Oklahoma and kind of my goal and my mission. And then it does list our partnerships. And if you go to the program part, this is where you can see the menu to book me for a school presentation right here. And then down here are some of the resources. So this one right here is my favorite. It's called a Zen Zone. So one of the things,
Sunny, we're not seeing the same screen you are, so you might have to unshare and then find. There you go.
Got it. Perfect. Awesome. So this is, thank you so much, the programs tab. So my favorite thing to give out is the Zen Zone binder. So whenever we implemented my program in my school, one of the things that I really pushed for was having a calming corner. I call it a Zen Zone in the corner of the room. Some teachers have tents, some have a really cool chair, some have a couch that kids can lay on, and it really is a safe place where kids can go, and it's completely isolated from the rest of the classroom. In my class, the students don't have to ask permission to go over there because then that would mean that I'm asking what's wrong. And sometimes they just need a minute to actually think about what's wrong before they know. And so they can get up, they go into that corner, and they have this binder. And inside of it are all different types of techniques, breathing techniques, coloring sheets, journal opportunities, worksheets that ask them about like their temperature, their emotion temperature. And then there's emojis that explain all the different emojis. There's fidgets over there, books that they can read. And so this Zen Zone binder is a resource that if a teacher wants to create their own calming corner, they can just print this off, stick it in a binder, and it is there for their kids. This right here is the Mind Guide. It is a really incredible resource that kind of guides them. And then down here, I have some goal setting worksheets. And then this is something I've recently done. I've partnered with the American Heart Association and created a health hero kit. One of the things I've noticed as a teacher and by visiting all these schools on my school tour is kids are getting on social media a lot younger. And there's really not too much we can do about that other than as adults try to make social media more of a positive thing or push positive initiatives. So kids print off this hero and they decorate it, and there's a whole sheet on the other side of it that tells them to take photos of them doing healthy things like drinking water, going on a walk, getting physical activity, stretching, whatever it is, posting it on social media, and they can tag me. And so it's a fun way for me to be able to interact with them. And it also makes them feel special when I get to share their stuff on my social media. And so I said, if kids are going to be on social media at 12, 13 years old, let's try to make sure that they're doing something positive and something good for themselves. So this whole tab has a plethora of resources. These are some of the coloring sheets that 988 and I created, and there's the word searches as well. So that is pretty much the gist of it. Do you guys have any questions?
I have one, Sunny.
Yeah.
What after being named Miss Oklahoma, what has been the challenge with your schedule and still teaching and managing all this at the same time? Because I'm sure you hate being out of the classroom, listening to the passion in your voice. So can you speak on that a little bit?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked, because that's my favorite question. That's always people's first question. How in the world are you still teaching? So when I found out I could compete in February, I really wanted to win. And like I said, I couldn't prepare myself like I usually do with a coach. So I said, I'm going to do everything that I can do to make sure that the universe is getting the signal that I'm ready for this. And so I've always been told Miss Oklahoma does not work. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow. But I talked to my principal and she said, just sign a leave of absence. And if you win, you win. If not, you're right back in your classroom. No big deal. So I signed a leave of absence. I did plan on not teaching, and I won. And then that night, I went back to my hotel room, and usually you would cry tears of joy for becoming Miss Oklahoma. And I sat in my hotel room wearing my crown and sash that said Miss Oklahoma, crying because it hit me that I would made the decision to not teach. And so the next morning, I had a meeting with the directors, and the first thing I said is, here's my business plan as Miss Oklahoma. But I had a huge wake up call last night, and I love my job. And I promise you, I said, I'm 28 years old. I'm responsible. I've been responsible my entire life. I can manage both. And they said, how? And I said, let me call my superintendent. So I called my superintendent and I said, when can we have a meeting and talk about what this year looks like? Because I want to stay. And she said, I will literally do anything to keep you. So let's meet in 2 days. And so I went and met with my superintendent, and she said, okay, what if you sign a 75% contract? And if you decide to work more, then we just add days to your contract. And she said, I want to be flexible because being Miss Oklahoma is huge for our school district. She said it gives our name something positive on the news for once. And she said, now the only thing is because you being a homeroom teacher, that's going to put us in a bind on the days you're off because we don't get substitutes. So she said, how do you feel about being our emergent bilingual teacher? And I said, well, I've taught everything else. So I have taught 6th grade English, 5th grade English, 5th grade social studies, pretty much anywhere my school needs me. I say, yes, sign me up. I will figure it out. And so I said, yes. And I will tell you, it has been amazing to be in this position because my school does have a huge population of emergent bilingual students. And I never realized how much, as even a homeroom teacher, I was kind of putting those kids on a back burner. So having this year in that room is going to make me a stronger homeroom teacher whenever I do go back into that position. But my principal and my superintendent have been so flexible. My students have been my biggest cheerleaders, my biggest supporters. A lot of them were actually at Miss Oklahoma to watch me win, and my staff had a little party. But I did miss out on the entire month of October. From October 1st to October 31st, I did not work at school. I hired a teacher assistant, and she took over my emergent bilingual class. I spent about 2-3 weeks training her, and she did a fantastic job. We communicated every day. I FaceTimed with my students. But my students and my staff know that me doing this is not only good for our school, but I am doing things that have helped our school in other school districts. And I'm also putting educators out there in a positive way. I'm advocating and being a representation for educators as well. And so I'm just really lucky that I work at a place that supports me as much as they did, because I don't think a lot of superintendents would have said, you can just work whenever you want. Just send me a weekly schedule, So it was really awesome. I'm glad I have that relationship with my administration.
Well, we need good teachers like you. I totally admire you. And I know you'd told me that story before. So Kyle, thank you for asking that question, because I was about to say, you need to tell them about how you started crying because you wanted to teach,
It was
so.
a hard decision. I remember at my second to last assembly in October, one of the students was like, "How are you?" And no one had really asked me that in like a month, and I shed a tear and I said, "You know what? I'm so happy to be here with you guys today, but I really do miss my students. I really do." And my students were really excited when I came back, but I will say the funny thing, all of my students thought I got fired. I explained the Miss Oklahoma thing to them. I told them I would be gone for the month of October, and they were like, "We thought you got in trouble." I was like, "What do you think of me? What kind of troublemaker, sassy teacher do you think I am?" So it was really funny. But yeah, they've been awesome, my school and my students.
And weren't you a teacher of the year? Was that for your school?
So, in 2020, I was nominated and the recipient award winner for Next Gen 30 Under 30 in education. And then in 2021, during COVID, I won Teacher of the Year at my school, which was awesome. I was very surprised because I'd only been teaching 3 years at the time. But 2021 was a unique year because they threw me in a different position as well. In the middle of the year, we had lost a teacher, and so I filled that gap. And I realized that teaching kids that didn't speak my language or teaching sped kids was not realistic over Zoom. And so I decided to put on a mask and I went into their homes. It was risky, but those kids needed their education, and it was really cool to get to sit down and interact with my students and their family members as well. I feel like I got really close with my students that year.
Yeah, thank you, Sunny. I think that you just sharing just your raw and real story is just so wonderful in a world where so many people put on a happy face all the time to just say, "Hey, this is a place where I came from." And because of that, it molded me into who I am, and I want to serve the underserved. And I just think you're an inspiration, and you are paving a brave and bright new path for so many. And we're so grateful that you've shared your personal story, but also your character development program with us. I think there's a lot of people who are here today and who will also watch this later on our YouTube channel that are really going to be inspired and motivated by you. So thank you for being an inspiration to us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. When I go to schools and I tell my story, I think it's important for me to be honest about how I felt as a kid, because I'm very prideful now of where I came from as an adult. But as a kid, I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I would let the bus driver, me and my sister both, would let them drop us off blocks away because we were embarrassed of our apartments. And I always tell kids my biggest regret in life is that I was ever ashamed of where I came from, because it was completely out of my control. It was out of my mother's control. She was doing the best that she could. And now I know that she's an amazing mom and she worked so hard. But there are so many kids that think because they don't have nice shoes, because they don't have a beautiful home, because they don't have name brand stuff, that they're not enough and they're not smart and they're not special and they're not going to amount to anything. And so I tell kids, I used to feel that way. I was embarrassed and I was ashamed, but I'm telling you right now that that's the wrong mindset, because you're going to use everything that you've experienced in life to do something about it and to make an impact. And so there are so many kids that feel that way. And so I hope by telling them my story, it's like, I'm not ashamed. Like, why should you be too? So thank you.
Well, that is one of the things that that touched me so much in my little more newspaper article here, was what you said about you and your sister, having the bus driver drop you off, and also about, feeling bad about going to the place to pick out clothes because, they would take you over to pick out clothes, and that you regretted feeling
Operation
that way.
School Bell.
That you at least had clothes. I mean, you could go get clothes. So I just, that was one of the things that very much, I thought, oh my goodness, if we could just get that across to so many people. And yes, ditto, Melissa, you are doing an amazing job spreading that across the state of Oklahoma. And I'm going to be pulling for you to spread that across the United States.
Oh,
So Miss America, here we come, right? So
Yes. And I just found out it's in January, and you guys, it's at Disney. I've never been to Disney. And what's really cool, when I found out it was in Disney, I was almost more emotional for my family than I was for myself, because my dad has never been on an airplane. And it's just going to be a really cool experience for my family who doesn't get these kinds of endeavors and traveling experiences. So I'm just as excited for my family to get to go to Miss America as I am to be on stage. But it's very, very exciting. I am nervous though. A lot.
the sad thing about it is you might have to give up your teaching job if you get that. So
I don't think they're as accommodating.
they might not be quite as accommodating on that.
I just wanted to say about a gratitude list. I always like to say to make a list of things that you have that money can't buy. And I've always loved that. That's just puts it in a different perspective.
I love it.
But I love what admire what all you've done, because you have empathy and you've been in their shoes.
Yes.
And that builds that trust.
I love my job. It's amazing.
It's very radiant and apparent that you love your job. And so as a grandmother, I so appreciate that and an educator, I appreciate that for all those who are coming along. So any other questions?
Are you certified in all grades? Because it seems like all grades need you.
Oh, you're so. I'll be honest. Everyone tells me that I should teach high school. I'm terrified. So you guys can't tell, but I'm only 5 foot. So I already blend in really well with my 5th graders. I'm afraid those high schoolers would eat me alive. So I would love that. But I'm certified in kindergarten through 8th grade. So I can teach any of that. I've only taught 5th and 6th. But after having all of these experiences as Miss Oklahoma, I'm like, so one day I meet the kindergartners and I just love them. And I'm like, I could teach kindergarten. And then sometimes I see 12th graders. I'm like, they're really cool. I feel like we could get on the same page and relate. So I want to teach everything now. Now it's kind of made my life harder, because I'm like, I want to be a principal, superintendent. I want to be a kindergarten, 3rd grade, and 8th grade teacher. So, but I can explore all my options.
Yes.
I'd like to say on a personal note, Sunny, my husband and I have been the founders of Next Gen Under 30 Oklahoma, and you radiate and are exemplary of what we want to honor, not only what you do in your career, but outside the community. And you're just a trailblazer and a star. And when I read that, I thought, Dawn, look at this. And we were just so ecstatic that you were giving credit. So we appreciate you a lot. Thank you.
Much. I appreciate that.
Well, you've got some years ahead of you, and I think you can teach high schoolers. I think you'll be able to teach high schoolers just fine.
I'm 5 feet too. I'm 5 feet also.
So any other questions or comments? Then if not, thank you all so much. But, oh, did someone say something? Well, Sunny, you have really made our evening beautiful for me. I've really enjoyed hearing everything you've had to say, and wish you the very best in all your endeavors. And if there's anything we can ever do for you, please reach out, because we'd be glad to help you in any way we could. So thank you. And thanks to all of you for attending.
Thanks for the invite.
Bye.
Thank you. And we'll be tuning in to see you win Miss America.
Yes,
Thank you.
We'll all be cheering on you on. So bye. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.